unsealed. The judge who approved that warrant ruled yesterday that the affidavit could be released after officials removed or redacted, that's the term, certain sensitive information. The Justice Department argued that releasing any portion of this document or the document in full could compromise its investigation. The judge, however, sided with requests from multiple news organizations, including CBS News, to partially unseal this document. You saw it scrolling on the screen just to my immediate right. I want to bring in our chief election and campaign correspondent, Robert Costa, who is in West Palm Beach, Florida, where this issue was decided. Bob, what do we know so far?
Good to be with you, Major. CBS News is still digesting this affidavit, heavily redacted, many black lines throughout the document. But let it be known that this is a serious document. As I've been reading it, and we've been working with our team here, it's evident that the government believes, and this is why they believe they had probable cause to go into Mar-a-Lago, just across the water here in West Palm Beach, over on the Palm Beach side, to go into Mar-a-Lago because there are 15 boxes full of highly classified information, at times top secret information, sensitive compartmented information, dealing with the highest level of national security, national defense documents. Because they believe they had probable cause that those were in this storage facility at Mar-a-Lago and not properly stored, they're telling the judge here in West Palm Beach, Bruce Reinhardt, a federal judge, that they felt compelled to go in as part of this investigation into former President Trump's handling of documents. They also note in the second page of this affidavit that they believe there's probable cause of the crime of obstruction being committed, and they have evidence of that to also go in and went into Mar-a-Lago. So this is a serious case. The affidavit underscores it, but we're still trying to find out more about the specifics, which have been heavily redacted.
Bob Costa with us. Thank you so much. Here's the document, ladies and gentlemen. It runs 38 pages. Jeff Pegues is at the table with me, as is Catherine Herridge. And before I turn to both of you, I want to note that a few moments ago at the White House, President Biden was participating in a women's equality event. Reporters asked him one question before being ushered out of the Roosevelt Room. The question was, has national security been in any way threatened by documents at Mar-a-Lago? The president's answer, and I directly quote the president here, "We will let the Justice Department determine that." So President Biden, for the first time on the record on this matter. Jeff Pegues, what strikes you about what you've seen so far?
Well, I think in some ways this is a disappointing document. I think if you're looking for some sort of smoking gun in terms of what the government may have and why they searched Mar-a-Lago when they did, you might be disappointed. However, what the government has done here they have released, and as you can see here, look at all these redactions, and this is just a taste of what this document looks like. But if you literally read between the lines, what you will see is how this investigation has conducted. Almost from start, which basically the DOJ's role in this started in February to this point now, including the search of Mar-a-Lago and that search for those 15 boxes. What the government is saying, and what stands out to me here, is that they are saying there is evidence of obstruction. And I think that's the line that stands out to me most, in that there are supporters of the former president who have made comments, inaccurate comments about these documents.
Representations to the Justice Department.
Representations that the FBI, the Department of Justice, wants to get back. These are government documents. Various classifications. That's what they're saying here. They don't belong to the former president. They say these are government documents produced by the government for the government.
Catherine, before I come to you, I want to ask Jeff this one question. This piece of this 38 pages, extremely unusual for this to be seen at this stage of any investigation involving any American. True?
Yeah, this is, this doesn't happen in every case that...
Affidavits usually do not appear until there's an indictment, and we're a very, very long way from that.
Exactly. They stay sealed. The fact that this is out there, even though it's been heavily redacted, I'm sure there was a lot of hand-wringing. Some of that is played out in court. A lot of hand-wringing on the part of DOJ officials. You know why? Because there are still these echoes of 2016 and James Comey sort of making declarations about an investigation that ultimately, a lot of people believe, played a role in the 2016 election. And so nobody wants to go back to that. And this Attorney General has been very, he's been honest about the fact that we treat everybody the same. There is nobody above the law. But that also means, in his view, that we go by the book. And releasing something like this is not going by the book, but there is this pressure on the Department of Justice to put something out there to the public.
Jeff, thanks. Catherine, stand by. Bob Costa, I want to go back to you in West Palm Beach, Florida.
Major, what's important also to recognize from the documents the government has filed today, beyond the affidavit, is that this is an ongoing federal investigation of the highest level, and that they are dealing with witnesses that they are really concerned about in terms of intimidation, and they mention it in this document, civilian witnesses. And there has been a lot of reporting at CBS News and elsewhere about how the Mar-a-Lago property, employees, people who had access to former President Trump's inner circle, visitors to that property, may have left it vulnerable to foreign actors, to anyone with ill intentions. And what the federal government is saying here, even though it's a heavily redacted document, this is an ongoing investigation with many witnesses across complicated fronts around the former president. And that's why they're so hesitant to give more information about the details of what they're learning from specific people who might be vulnerable to some kind of attack or criticism and the intimidation factor.
Bob Costa, West Palm Beach, thank you. Catherine, many of us at CBS, myself included, are experienced going through documents like this, but few have your area of expertise and experience going through this. What has emerged to you as you've read through, sitting here right at the table with us?
Well, I'm still going through the document now, but the key section to me is the probable cause section, and unsurprisingly, this is the most heavily redacted, but there's some pieces of the puzzle that I want to try and put together. It tells us that earlier this year, the National Archives received these boxes that had classified records or records marked classified. And what the FBI agent swears to in this document is that, and I'm going to read it here, there's probable cause to believe that documents containing classified national defense information and presidential records remain at the premises. And it goes on to say that there was not a secure facility at Mar-a-Lago that would be authorized to contain highly classified information. And it goes on to say, I submit that probable cause exists to believe that evidence, contraband, fruits of a crime, or other illegally possessed in violation of these criminal statutes will still be found at these premises. So in other words, they believe that there was highly sensitive national defense information, even classified information at the highest levels that remained at Mar-a-Lago, and it did not have the kind of secure government facility, what they know as a SCIF, to protect these records. What I also find instructive are the 5 pillars that the FBI and Justice Department lay out for withholding so much of this information from the public. So for these heavily redacted documents, it talks about witness information and that quickly and broadly witnesses could be identified through social media, and this would have a chilling effect on cooperation. It talks about the roadmap to the investigation. It talks about the rules of criminal procedure, so protecting grand jury information. It specifically talks about safety of law enforcement personnel and the privacy of others. So those are the 5 pillars. But what we can see in the pieces of this puzzle is they believe there was evidence that still highly classified national defense information remained at Mar-a-Lago in a facility that was not secure.
Now, Catherine, the former president has represented in public in various ways that he was cooperative with this and that this search warrant was not necessary as a last resort, that this could have been resolved some other way. Is there anything that you've been able to see, and I know we're going through it right now, bit by bit, that addresses or comes close to addressing that underlying question of either cooperation or whether or not this could have been handled some other way?
There is a specific section where it talks about the findings of the National Archive, this more than half dozen boxes containing classified information. And then it goes on to say that there was a public statement from the Save America PAC that, nothing was found. So this was, in the view of this affidavit, sort of an element of obstruction. So saying publicly the National Archives didn't see anything here, but in fact, we now know.
Essentially a misrepresentation. Jeff?
And that is a very good point, because if you look at page 17, the 15 boxes provided to NARA, the archives, contain classified information. They have a breakdown of what was in there. 184 unique documents bearing classification markings, including 67 documents marked as confidential, 92 documents marked as secret, 25 documents marked as top secret. Further, the FBI agents, the document says, observed markings reflecting the following compartments: dissemination controls, HCS, FISA, Orcon, no foreign. I mean, these are all the kinds of classifications that we don't hear a lot about, but the government has. And it shows you that these aren't, personal mementos. According to the FBI, these are top secret, confidential documents that belong to the government.
But I've got to jump, Catherine. Jeff Pegues, thanks very much. Catherine Harrods, thanks very much. Our thanks to Bob Costa in West Palm Beach. Our coverage of this breaking story will continue on our CBS News streaming, on your local news, and tonight on the CBS Evening News. This has been a CBS News Special Report. I'm Major Garrett in Washington. Good day.